Hey, yo, what is up, everybody? Danny here. Wanted to create this video to chat with everybody about our next training cycle, which begins Monday, June 13th. So, let's talk about how we finished last training cycle. So, our last training cycle finished with athletes competing at semifinal events, at in-person competitions that had a very similar look and feel to semifinal events. Some people doing some online qualifiers that follow us in Latin America, et cetera, et cetera. So in so many words, that was really the end of most of our competitive training seasons. And what we see at the end of our competitive training season is a lot of sport specificity. So for us, what does that mean? How does that relate to the sport of CrossFit? Well, the sport of CrossFit is a blend of multiple different training disciplines, and we kind of mix everything together. We race for the best times or the best results. And over years, as we see our fitness improve, that's how we define our own fitness. So again, it's just a blend of a bunch of different training modalities mixed together. That's like how I commonly describe CrossFit to the layperson, the person that doesn't really know any better. I know that like CrossFit HQ has their own definition of CrossFit, and I support that and I believe in that as well. But for me, that's like the simple stripped down version of how we define the sport of CrossFit. So when we're preparing for these in-person competitions and the sport aspect, we do a lot of sport specificity, like I've said, which is all that mixed stuff. We mix the thrusters with the pull-ups. We mix the muscle-ups with the deadlifts. We mix the rowing with the box jumps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the environment that we try to create to prepare people for these events. Now, it is also our opinion, and the opinion of some of the best coaches in our sport, that if we're training like that all year round, we're more than likely going to face burnout. If you look at some of the OG athletes in our sport, the Matt Chans, the Spiels, the Kalipas, et cetera, those folks really trained high volume in a mixed setting almost all year around. Sure, if you got a chance to speak with them, they will tell you that they address some of their weaknesses, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part in the early days, it was more is better approach. If I'm not good at thrusters and muscle-ups, the best way to do that, or the best way to address that, is to just perform more thrusters and muscle-ups. And over the years, we've become a little bit more sophisticated. We've seen how people have burned out tremendously. And programs like ours have taken more of a planning approach, and we've changed that model for multiple reasons. Number one, most importantly, is to prevent burnout and injury. If you are sports specific all year round, your potential for injury increases tremendously, especially in a dynamic and such a demanding sport like the sport of fitness or CrossFit. So when we're done with our training season or we're done with our competitive season, it is our preference that we take an off-season style approach to our training. And this year, we are starting to call that building the base style of training. That is the next name of this coming up training cycle that starts June 13th. And the reason why we really like that name is because that is that just like defines it much better than calling it off season. We find that some folks don't really vibe with that name. We've lost some followers every year around this certain time because the training just changes. It becomes very different. And some folks who really don't have the growth mindset, they want to be stimulated by doing CrossFit all year long. So we're going to kind of change that approach, and we're going to call it building the base. And I'll explain a little bit more how that's different from our typical off-season training cycles in the past. So once again, in off-season, and in this base building phase, what we like to do is we like to strip all the elements apart from what makes CrossFit so special, right? We got weightlifting, gymnastics, aerobic work, et cetera, et cetera. And there's plenty more, right? Like there's in weightlifting, we have strength training, we have Olympic weightlifting. You can talk about Russian kettlebell sport. You can talk about powerlifting. You can talk about certain modalities that are also included in the sport. And what we do is we segment them and we separate them as much as possible. So what I want to elicit, what I want to do is I want to create an environment where you guys will become the best weightlifters you guys can be, independent of having to weightlift mixing them with the rower, mixing them with the bike, mixing them with double unders. We want to spend as much time in these independent training disciplines as much as possible so we can develop those skills without having the concern of all of the noise from all of the other CrossFit shit that we have to blend and mix when we're preparing for in-person competition, right? So let's look at these a little bit. I've got some notes here that I'm going to reference. So for our Olympic weightlifting, not our strength training, for our Olympic weightlifting, we're going to take a volume approach, which will mean less intensity. I know I say that a lot, and some of you guys may not know what that means, but really what that means is our percentages are going to go down. We've been training very heavy as we've been preparing for in-person competition. We've been taking heavy singles, we've been training heavy complexes, we've been doing some battery work, et cetera, and we are going to press the reset button and take a high volume, low intensity approach. So the weights will be less and the volume will be more. This will also give us the opportunity to address some of our technical flaws as well. When we're getting ready for in-person competition, we tend to not take such a technical approach. Most of our time is spent on the heavier side and the more intense side. And then when we're building the base, we take more of a technical approach and we kind of refine some of those flaws that we've picked up on through our in-person competition phase of training. And we can address those things with building the base with weightlifting technical aspect of training. When it comes to our strength training is going to change a little bit more. Now, for the classic lifts like front squats and back squats, we're going to be performing both of them during over the next 10 weeks during this training cycle. And the approach will also be in volume. We're not going to be taking heavy singles in either of the squats. We're going to be pushing big volume for both front and back squat. What I'm most excited about is this concept called contrast pairing. Contrast pairing is kind of where we blend typical strength training with more explosive work. Kind of marries the heavy lifting with the higher velocity exercises as well. So it's a blend of both. It's a blend of strength and power. That's what you're going to see in most of our strength training efforts for the next 10 weeks as well. Okay, when it comes to gymnastics, the gymnastics approach is going to be very much focused on the strict aspect of pressing and pulling. The reason is there's the sport specificity of our in-person competition style training is it's a lot of kipping work, it's a lot of high velocity work, it's a lot of high rate of contractions, and the demands are tremendous from a structural perspective. And in order to make sure that we can perform these exercises as safely, as quickly, as efficiently, and effectively as possible, it's important that we develop that strict work first. So this cycle, we will put a tremendous amount of emphasis on slower and strict exercises when it comes to body weight or gymnastics. All right. And the last thing that I'm going to touch on in this video is our aerobic base training. Now, traditionally, in our old style of off-season training, we almost did no mixed work, right? When I say mixed work, what I'm talking about is CrossFit stuff. We've had some old school off-season training cycles, which, by the way, gave people a lot of results, but again, had none of that. So for what we noticed over the years is some people intellectually had an issue with that. They needed to see some more CrossFit being dosed so they could feel confident in their training design. And that's what we're providing in this current training cycle. The pure aerobic work will be focused on longer and slower work, establishing that aerobic base. It's our belief and the belief of a lot of exercise physiologists out there that the more you establish your aerobic base, the more you'll be able to build on top of that base. So what we want to do is to define that more as we continue with our base building and off-season style training program. So our rowing, our biking, our running will be much longer than most of you guys are used to with less intensity. All right. But like I also said, we're going to sprinkle in a lot more mixed work for you guys than we traditionally have been. And the reason is we have to stay fresh for qualifiers. There will be more qualifiers coming up towards the end of this training cycle. And we want to make sure that you guys are being engaged and following along and feeling motivated when you come into the training room. We know that when it's just too much boring work, even though it's effective, some folks can drop off. And we want to make sure that we keep everybody engaged from beginning to end of this training cycle. As always, we appreciate your guys' support. Please keep posting in the WhatsApp group the change that we've seen in there with you guys posting, asking questions, and posting your heavy singles. The communal aspect of that has been tremendous, and I think that your guys' results are consistent with that. So we really genuinely appreciate that. See you on the training floor. Good luck. Peace.